Hello, I'm Dr. Michael Kessler, and I've been in private practice for about 27 years doing natural health care. And what I use in my clinic is usually changing somebody's lifestyle, working on clinical nutrition, targeted nutrition to change the biochemistry. And in this country, biochemistry is a big deal. I mean, we know a lot about biochemistry. We use clinical nutrition to change biochemistry. Traditional allopathic medicine uses pharmacology to change biochemistry, but we now know from biophysics that there's another regulatory system of the body that comes before the biochemistry, that regulates the biochemistry. So there's a lot of research in this field, and that has to do with like electromagnetic fields. We know that the Earth produces a magnetic field and that we need that for our health. We need to have the right type of magnetic field. Our body produces electromagnetic fields. We also have biophotonics. Biophotonics is a new study, new research. Most of it came from Germany, from Dr. Fritz Popp, who discovered that the DNA, when it compresses, produces very coherent laser-like light that regulates metabolism. We know that sound waves have an effect on our physiology. When our heart beats, it sends out a resonant frequency that affects our physiology. So there's a whole other regulatory system. And because of that, there's been a lot of modalities that have been created to affect the physiology using these modalities. One being PEMF, pulsed electromagnetic field therapy, that is being researched at major universities. It seems to regenerate cartilage. It's great for depression. It seems to help with a lot of different types of ailments. We now know that laser light in sports medicine and just for general health, there's a lot of different types of light therapy. One of the modalities that we like is the TheraGem that uses gem and light therapy. So there's a lot of different types of therapy that came off this biophysics. And while I was at a conference and I was testing doctors in North Carolina at this conference, I was using something called heart rate variability, Dynamica medical heart rate variability, that measures how well your autonomic nervous system regulates itself. And practitioners were coming over to our booth and they were getting a baseline reading, and then they were going over to this other booth where they had this Trinfinity8 system. And when they come back, I'd recheck them, and all the scores almost on everybody improved. It means that their system was regulating much, much better. And so I was intrigued. And this Trinfinity8 is a whole other system that sends in mathematical code, binary code into the body to create physiological changes that the body decodes and creates changes in physiology. Today, what we're going to share with you is some of the research that we've been doing for the founder of this Trinfinity8, Kathy Forte, and we use different types of measuring equipment to see what kind of changes take place when we use the Trinfinity8. To test the effectiveness of the Trinfinity8, we're going to use heart rate variability, a very well accepted medical technology for testing to show the effectiveness of the Trinfinity8. And what that's about is really measuring how well the autonomic nervous system is regulating. And that's why on the screen here I'm showing an actual picture of the autonomic nervous system. Now the autonomic nervous system is controlled by two separate entities, the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, most of us know about the sympathetic nervous system. That's the part of the nervous system that gets activated in fight or flight, or when we're stressed, IRS, relationship things, or whatever subconscious programs that are playing there that may be stressing us in certain ways. And that system gets activated, and what happens when that system gets activated, as we can see on this chart, is that first maybe you'll have the dilation of the pupils, or you may have the heart rate starting to speed up, or you may have the digestive system which is not able to produce the digestive enzymes and kind of shuts down, where now the opposite of the sympathetic nervous system is the parasympathetic nervous system. There's two branches, and the parasympathetic nervous system has to do with calming the body, decreasing the heart rate. When we talk about the parasympathetic nervous system, it has an opposite effect of the sympathetic nervous system. It's the one that calms down the body. So the sympathetic nervous system is maybe the gas pedal the parasympathetic nervous system is the brakes. And the parasympathetic nervous system will slow down the heart rate, where again the sympathetic nervous system speeds it up. We know that the sympathetic nervous system will shut down the digestive system, where the parasympathetic nervous system is involved with digestion. It increases peristalsis to move the food through the digestive system. So they're opposites. They're yin and yang. And they have to balance and like a teeter-totter. And you don't want to be stuck in one system or the other. They have to be flexible. And the autonomic nervous system can be measured by measuring the beat-to-beat changes that take place at the heart, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. But I want to give a definition here because I think it's important. So when we measure the autonomic regulation, it refers to the ability of the autonomic nervous system to up or down regulate the sympathetic and parasympathetic tone, depending on the needs of the body. It's constantly in flux. Open regulation means normal functioning of the parasympathetic nervous system and sympathetic nervous system. The body can respond to stress as needed and then relax and repair itself as appropriate. What we see a lot in our clinic is what we call block regulation. The body cannot adjust to changing conditions. It is stuck in some level of sympathetic or parasympathetic tone and has lost its ability to optimally adapt. Now, the first case that we're going to look at is one of those. He probably has block regulation. And we're going to show how the Trinfinity affects that. And it was quite phenomenal. So we're going to go through the first case. And this is a case that actually we tested at a conference in North Carolina. One of the first cases that we saw major changes on the heart rate variability after using Trinfinity8. And here we go. So here's the first case. And what we're looking at is each one of these little lines here that I'm pointing at is the heart contracting. And between one contraction and the next, these are also called R waves, there should be a difference in time. The time shouldn't be the same between one contraction and the next. That would mean that there's not a lot of heart rate variability, which reflects how well the nervous system is able to adapt and function. And in this case, if they have good heart rate variability, you'll see like a nice wave pattern here instead of this big straight line going across here. It means this person doesn't have good flexibility in his nervous system. But really, to get a quick look here, they lay it out for us here in these functional states. This is A stands for how well the body can adapt. B stands for how well the autonomic nervous system can regulate between those two branches we talked about. C talks about the neuroendocrine function of the body and how well that's able to work. And this is the psycho-emotional state, which is the one in pink. And this is the total health of all of those things. And you can see that everything here is very, very low. Again, this person has block regulation. And it's telling us that because we can look at the stoplight and see that it's red. It means that the system is not working very well. And again, just another view in a different way showing the same thing. All these different states, you should see them filled up to the top. They're very low. Here it says the conclusion. There is a possibility of adaptation breakdown. There's functional failures in the autonomic regulation, which means the sympathetic and parasympathetic are again not regulating. And there's a breakdown in the central regulation mechanism. And there's signs of depression. Basically, this person is definitely not, his physiology as far as his nervous system isn't working very well. And I'm going to go on to the next slide. And this is another breakdown for us. And this is saying another way, just another way of saying here, there's only 1%. There's hardly anything in this field here. It's saying that this area right here should be up to the top. It should be 100% or much higher. It's 1%, meaning that the autonomic regulation is just not doing very well. And either is his reserves for his autonomic nervous system. And what I see here that's really, really important that we're going to see here is this is a number called 4.3. It's called the Z parameter. And this 4.3 should be between 50 to 500. That means this person has very little vital energy, very little vital force. And we can see that his dominant area here, this yellow, is the sympathetic nervous system, which we talked about before. It's more, his system is more in fight or flight. It's the more dominant part of his nervous system that's functioning right now. We also look here and we can see that this is called the golden section parameter, and it's all zeros here. It should be between 0.15 and 0.63, which means that the nervous system has to control the speed of the heart, the rhythms of the heart. And the parasympathetic and sympathetic do that, but when it's this low, there's a tendency for more arrhythmias and those kind of things to occur. And here, this is 600 different biorhythms, or it's really looking at the neuroendocrine system and how well it's regulating and working together. And you want all white here showing up in these bubbles, meaning this scale here is showing that this is the best and down here is the worst. And this person is kind of gray and red down at the bottom, kind of the worst. There's not much communication. This is telling me that the neurons in the brain aren't getting enough oxygen and nutrients, and his metabolism is very low. This should, at least when I add this up, this should be 200. This is his ability to, his catabolic and anabolic states is looking more at metabolism. And it's very low. Everything's low, low, low. And his brain function also very low. This is looking at the electrical activity of the brain, the states of arousal. We're looking at all the delta, theta, alpha, and beta states. And there's not much activity, as you can see here. And this is a spectral analysis, and there's a lot of gaps missing here. Basically, it's showing red. It's showing that this person is again, everything is very, very low functioning. And this is showing, this is called fractal analysis, and this is showing basically how dynamic his system is working. And without going into too much depth, this is the best, and going through here all the way to the worst, he's in the worst area. In other words, his body's going in the wrong direction with his health, and there's, again, not much flexibility. And his age here, it tells us, is 68, but he's looking more like he's 76. So let's go ahead and do a Trinfinity8 session and see what happens with this. So here's his first session. And as you can see, after his first session, there's more activity here, there's more heart rate variability, there's more movement, and look at the functional states. Everything has come up. It's pretty amazing to us. And it went from a red, and this is gone from a red now to it's a red-yellow. That means things are improving. Things are going in the right direction. We look at his Z-score, which is 36.7, and if you can remember what it was before, if we go back and look, his Z-score was 4.3. So already it's bringing vital energy into the body. We know that when we do the Trinfinity, because we've seen this over and over again, that it brings more energy into the system. So again, now he's still not in range completely at the 36.7 because it's 50 to 500, but we'll see some other changes take place as well. We also notice that the control of the heart rhythms are much better by looking at the golden section parameter. The numbers are coming up here. We look at the neurodynamic matrix, and before he was all gray and red, now he's moving more up into the green and yellow. Things are improving, more communication, more energy into the system. His metabolism is coming up. Things are working a little bit better. And his age shifted. It's gone from 68 to 67, so he's a little bit younger now. It's great.